The wait is finally over. What is up, guys? I finally have God Valkyrie, so I can finally start on the Beyblade Burst God reviews. So yeah, this is God Valkyrie 6Vortex ReBoot. It is the first Beyblade in the God series, which starts with I think it's the second series of the anime, the third series of the toy line if you count the basic layers or the single layers as their own series. And it is the first one to include a core disc with a frame as well as the God chip. So let's go over all the different parts. And the first one is the God layer, God Valkyrie. They're called God layers now, but I still just call them layers because that's what they are. It looks a bit like Victory Valkyrie, and its gimmick is that it has, see this here, it's a little spring-loaded wing here. So it's designed so that when it hits opponents, this is going to spring back and then rebound forward. It's called the bound attack, and it's supposed to make things burst. Doesn't exactly work very well. It's not quite as powerful as V2 in my opinion. I know some people liked it, but it's a decent attacker. It's not like horrible. It can still scrap versus things like Deep Chaos, Acid Anubis, some of like the easier to burst stamina types, Guardian Kirbyus. But it's not going to like leave a dent in Alter Chronos or even Blaze Ragnarok or anything more defensive than that. So it's a pretty melancholy attack layer. It's okay, but not great. And then the disc is 6Vortex. So the core disc is this middle part here. Oops. These are the numbered ones. It's called 6. You can tell it kind of looks like a 9 in this, but like it's supposed to be a 6. You can tell because it has like the stylized 6 here right on the disc tab. And the frame, which is this plastic part that fits on the outside of the disc, is called Vortex. But either way, 6 is pretty much universally accepted as the worst core disc out of the whole God series. It doesn't really have much of a use. It's got some, I think it's the lightest. It's got some bad weight distribution. It continues like the Valkyrie trend for having pretty useless discs. And Vortex is okay for like using it on an attack layer. I know that it's good for, generally okay for supporting like 3-sided layers or other attack layers. Like I know if they don't have Meteor, but Meteor isn't that difficult to get nowadays, they would use Vortex instead. But Vortex is kind of outclassed by Meteor. 6 is the worst core disc, so it's not really a disc worth getting. And then the driver, which is definitely the most interesting part of the Beyblade in my opinion, is ReBoot, which is kind of like Final Drive from Big Bang Pegasus from Metal Fight. Basically what happens is that when you launch the Beyblade, the I guess the centripetal force, I know that's like not the right term, but centrifugal force isn't an actual thing. So whatever it is that makes things go outward when they're spun. Whoops. Oh no. Alright, let's pretend that didn't just happen. So anyways, when you first launch the Beyblade, it's spinning so fast that these two silver tabs are gonna slide out. I can get my fingernails under them. I just clipped my fingernails, so yeah. And this silver tip in the center is going to extend, and as it slows down, the tabs go back into place and it goes back down to this like large jaggy shaped tip. So it kind of acts like Final Drive. But ReBoot is kind of strange because it has this weird synergy with 8, and only 8, like the 8 disc, where they'll fit together super tightly and make the Beyblade a little harder to burst. It's not too useful in that context, but the one combo where I have found ReBoot to be super useful is Metal God Chip, Twin Nemesis in Smash mode, 0 ReBoot. I guess you could also use 8 in this scenario, but I 0 doesn't burst enough and it's heavier, that I would justify using 8 over it. But basically what that combo is it's a smash attacker. The Metal Godship and the 0 disc are designed to like centralize the weight distribution so much to give it maximum RPM, so it stays in its extended mode longer and smashes things down into the ground because it'll be taller than the opponent. So that's the one combo I found ReBoot good in. It's also actually a pretty effective combo. I've gotten it to outspin Maximum Garuda, Deep Chaos on Revolve, a lot of like stamina types. Even if it can't KO them or burst them, it'll still outspin them just by pure smash attack. It's also a pretty fun combo to use. And I believe that aside from God Valkyrie recolors, God Valkyrie is the only way to get ReBoot. So overall, the God Valkyrie layer is pretty lackluster compared to other competitive options like Sieg Excalibur, Nightmare Longinus Legendspriggan, Twin Nemesis, possibly even Beat Kukulkan, but I haven't really tested that one just yet. 6Vortex is probably one of the worst disc and frame combos, though Vortex is kind of usable. And then ReBoot is the interesting part that I think is only available with this Beyblade. So unless you can find like your own ReBoot separately, I don't think it's been in any like random boosters or any other releases, then that alone might just be worth getting God Valkyrie. Or maybe not, because it's only useful in that one Twin Nemesis setup that I really like. So if you're not as big of a fan of Smash Attack as I am, then maybe you should just skip God Valkyrie. But if you really want ReBoot, then this is kind of the cheapest way to get it, the only way to get it, I think. So it's been the very first Beyblade Burst God review. Up next is my McDonald's themed Christ Satan, and I'll see you guys then.